Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Rebecca, and I love to sew. For today's video, we're going to make house slippers, three different pair, starting with these. This is going to be the first pair that we make. Aren't they cute? I just love them, and I'm super excited to have them to wear around the house. We're all at home nowadays, more than ever before. And personally, I found that I've been kind of letting my appearance go a little bit south. And so I just needed a quick, easy project to do to get me back into my sewing that would, be very gratifying without, spending too much time. And I just wanted to share this project with you guys. We're going to make a total of three different ones in this video using upcycled materials that I found at my local thrift store. We'll be doing several upcycling projects on this channel. I can't wait. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm doing is drafting my pattern using an older pair of house slippers that are still in pretty good condition, but just don't have any panache. As you can see, I'm tracing the bottom of my slippers using pattern paper that I purchased on Amazon. I will attempt to put a link for the pattern paper in the description box. But you really don't need to purchase this paper. You can use any pattern paper or just any paper in general. You can use an old paper bag, you can use paper from your printer to make your pattern piece. I did add about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance too as I was cutting those out, just to make sure that when I sew them together, they won't be too small. So don't forget to add your seam allowance. I'm marking my left and right sides so that I don't get confused. It's kind of, the pattern pieces are basically the same, just flip-flopped in opposite directions. So I'm going to mark my left from my right, and I'm also going to indicate which end is for the heel and which end is for the toe. I'm going to go ahead and bring in this lovely piece of knit floral fabric that I purchased from my local thrift shop, of course. We're going to go ahead and get that cut out. And there's going to be a total of 6 pieces when we're all done, 3 for each foot. It's going to be this pink fabric, a faux suede that we're going to use for the bottom, and the batting, which is going to be sandwiched between the two. And that batting is going to give us a nice comforting cushion on the bottom of our feet. I'm going to sew some lines in a crisscross diagonal fashion about 1.5 inches apart. Now it's time for my favorite part. We're here at the sewing machine. You can't tell by looking at this, but I actually do have my lines drawn on that fabric. We're getting everything sandwiched together. I sped this up because I thought you guys might be bored by it, but you get the idea. So now it's time to create the top part of the slippers. I simply measured across the top of my existing house slippers and then drew 2 lines on my pattern paper using those same measurements. After my lines were drawn, I found the center of those 2 lines. And actually, I had to do that a couple of times because after I marked my center point the first time, I realized that I didn't mark it correctly. So I went back and put the mark in the correct place. So the top pieces have been cut along with the batting. And then I'll just be taking a look at some design options, looking at my trim to see how I want my finishings to look and which ones I'm going to select and the placement of them. Off camera, I actually, as you can see here, incorporated this really cute embellishment with the assistance of my Cricut Maker, added some trim to the top. Now I'm going to secure the top of that trim. I'm really happy with the way the design turned out. I'm new to using Cricut, and so that was a really fun part of this project for me. What you see me doing now is called stitching in the ditch. Well, when I come back to the machine, I'm actually at my other machine serging. You couldn't see that off camera, but yeah, so now I'm going to stitch in the ditch to secure that top piece down. I'm sewing the top and bottom of the slippers together and we're almost done, sis. Voila! Too cute. Oh my goodness, how cute were those, right? So up next, we're gonna make these. OMG. Aren't they divine? You'll see this gold quilted fabric that I found. It was just like in a little fabric bin. It was maybe half a yard of it, and it was in a fabric bin along with a similar one like this. This little brocade here was a little girl's skirt. It was a brand new skirt. I just picked it up because I loved the look of the fabric. At the time, I did not know what I was going to make out of it. Now, guys, I name everything that I make, okay? So I call these Pamper Me. You're gonna pamper yourself too when you make you a pair. And whoever you make them for, they just gonna think they're so cute and they're gonna give you all kind of high praise. I call the first pair Pink Heart. Yes, Pink Heart and Pamper Me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and make these. Okay, so those 2 pieces of quilted metallic fabric were actually in a bag together with a $2.50 price tag on it. But there was a 50% off sale that day, so in fact I got them for like $1.25. And there's more than enough to make several pair of house slippers, which actually brings the cost down to pennies, ladies. I'm talking pennies on the dollar. And now all I'm doing here is repeating the steps that you saw me do on the previous pair. I had a little hiccup with my computer, so if my voice went in and out, I do apologize. I was just saying that I'm repeating the same steps, and I know the video is going fast. I did speed it up because I'm simply repeating the previous steps from the last pair. But I think it's good to see things more than once. I'm a visual learner. So for me, repeating things is a good thing. Hopefully it is for you too. Oh, you guys already saw that pretty little brocade skirt, didn't you? That's the one I purchased. There it is. Yeah. I purchased at a thrift store. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. When I first saw the fabric, I just liked the look of it. And I'm sure I'll be incorporating that into additional projects. I do not, ladies, do not spend my precious divine energy picking stitches out for my upcycles. I just cut through the fabric and keep it moving. Okay, pieces are cut out now, and I'm just getting everything layered. And I decided to upcycle this old canvas bag that I had just laying around the house. I'm going to use this for the bottom of this pair of house slippers. And it's really nice that those diagonal lines were already pre-sewn in that metallic fabric and that there was already some batting sewn to the bottom of that. So that just gave me extra cushion on these slippers. And then I already had my guidelines there, so all I had to do was just top stitch over the existing lines. Getting everything lined up. I'm ready to take back to the machine. So here all I'm doing is just securing the trim to the top of the slippers um, with a stitch in the ditch once again. More top stitching, and if you haven't done a lot of sewing, this is a really good project because you do a lot of basic elements like just sewing in straight lines and sewing around curves. I did serge the edges around the bottom of these slippers together to make everything nice and flat in preparation for sewing all of the layers together. I'm marking the placement of where I'm going to put the top of my slippers, getting everything pinned together. Checking out my trim. Now, I must say that I should have used a walking foot for this portion of the project, ladies, because all of those layers together created quite a bit of bulk, and there were times when my machine had a little hesitancy going over all of those layers. So I would not do that part like I did it. Don't do what I did here. Please use a walking foot, or if you have a heavy duty machine or an industrial machine, that's fine too. But yeah, my machine gave me the message several times that she needed to rest because I guess I was just putting her under too much stress. Oh dear, I am new with this machine. I've only had it for a short time. I've never had this brand. It's a Husqvarna Viking, and we are getting to know one another. Me and my machine. I call her Mother J. She's Husqvarna Viking Jade, and I call her Mother J for short. I do want to say something about the trim here. I forgot to mention that the trim needs to be either cut on a bias or out of a stretch, a four-way stretch. Because if not, it's not going to lay flat as you sew it around the curve on the front and back of your house slippers near the heel and toes. And it certainly won't turn over those curves nicely if it doesn't have any stretch in it. I did fail to mention that early on. My apologies. So yes, you will need either a bias tape or a four-way stretch fabric of some kind or elasticized fabric for your trim on the footbed of these slippers. Gonna turn that trim over so that the right side is out and go back and stitch in the ditch. Trim the back and success. After that self-care day, put those slippers on those pretty little feet and enjoy. Or prance or whatever. So for the last pair, I'm not going to go and start all over at the beginning. You already have the basic concept down by now. As you can see, I am using a belt that I thrifted to incorporate on these pair as an embellishment on the top, which the finished product I think is pretty unique for house slippers. And I'm just detaching the rings on the belt, looking at the placement, and then I'll hand sew that on. This metallic that I use for this, I didn't show ahead of time. It's just something that I had purchased previously. That particular top fabric, that solid piece, just came from my fabric stash. And the bottom piece that has the crisscross diagonal stitches in it, that is the piece that came out of the bag that I purchased at the thrift store. So yeah, I just love to sew. I've been doing this for a long, long time. Started with my grandmother when I was 11 years old. And we used to sew every Saturday together, coordinating outfits to wear to church. And I just have very fond memories of those times. She was my inspiration and my teacher. And I'm delighted to be here sharing some sewing opportunities with you. Um, I hope you'll come back and join me for future projects. I just love to sew. This is my therapy, y'all. I have so much peace when I'm in my creative space, just doing my thing. And there they are, all finished. Oh my goodness, were those divine or what? You guys may have also noticed some of the materials on that segment of the video that I used to make the final pair. Check these babies out. Oh, we just take a moment of silence? I think they're so cute. Guess what I call these? Wakanda Weekend. Yes, these are my Wakanda sandals. I mean, actually, they're house slippers, but I'm thinking I've been so inspired by how these turned out that maybe I should explore making actual sandals. Because, I mean, I would wear these outside, wouldn't you? The soles on the bottom of these are quilted, as you already know, with a nice fiber that lasts. I've already been scooting around the house in these, and they really are great. And the top, as you could tell, is something I harvested off of an old belt that I found at the thrift shop. This is the fabric. This other metallic, this quilted stuff was in that bag that I found. I think that fabric together, I paid like $1 for the gold that I used on Pamper Me and this. They were both in the bag together, okay? For $1. I mean, don't you just love upcycling? This is so wonderful, you guys. Please, please try this. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, don't forget, please, to comment, subscribe, hit me up, tell me what you think, which pair were your favorite. I hope you'll return because we're going to be doing a bunch of really neat projects on this channel. Makers Gotta Make. I already have something fantastic planned for you guys, something very pretty we're gonna make on the next video, okay? Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.